Hi, it's Tiffany Lorraine, the Resilient Mother, with another episode of the Resilient Mother podcast. This month, we're talking about mastering your unique resilience, and I am bringing you different guests and stories on unique resilience and motherhood and all the things that we want to do to support mothers to be resilient, to raise the next resilient generation. And my guest today is Jessie. Thank you so much for joining me, despite all the technical issues to make this happen today. We're being resilient. Please tell us a little bit more about you.
Thank you for having me. I feel very honored. I'm excited to be here. A little bit about me. I have 3 kiddos. They are 13, almost 9, and 5. So not quite the baby stage anymore, but still quite the different types of personalities and ages and stages and all the things. So I really, really enjoy it. I also have a background of music education and accounting. I really like the mix of logical and creativity in everything that I do. And so yeah, that's kind of me in a nutshell as far as my kiddos and I go. And I run Mom Elevated. So that started 9 years ago, and it's been quite a journey. It actually started as TKO assisting, as named for my oldest and my middle, and then also a good fun play on the pun of TKO, total knockout, technical knockout. I'm not sure which one it is, but
Yeah, I'm sure some guest on here is like, hey, yeah, I know what that is. I'm like, we're doing our best here. Okay, we're moms, we're busy.
yeah, exactly.
So if you could define resilience, what does resilience mean to you?
To me, that just means how you handle things and how you bounce back from whatever challenges you are facing. It's not necessarily, that you are going to stay knocked down. It's how you get back up and how you proceed forward through that, and just not letting yourself be stuck.
Do you have an example of that in your own life?
Oh gosh, so many. I would say one instance, fairly recently, I would say, is that my husband works out of state currently. So our challenge as just a couple is him being away and out of state for the past 3.5 years now, actually. And
Wow.
he'll only come home usually about one weekend out of a month. This year we've been lucky. I say lucky, but it's kind of a double-edged sword there. Um, because we also have our middle daughter goes to Shriners twice a week, does PT twice a week, and has all these extra things that we have to do. So because we've been doing a little bit extra this year, he's been coming home to go to those with me a little bit more, which means we get to see him more, but also means we have to do more of those appointments. So it's been interesting just navigating our relationship, keeping him involved with the family and the kiddos, and making sure that he feels like he's still a part of the family in a big way, but also allowing him to do that and be away, and also running a business while I'm doing all of the things at home.
Resilient family, resilient mama. Woo woo.
Yeah, exactly. So that's probably the most recent example of a moment where we've had to be resilient.
Do you have any strategies or systems or special things that you do to keep that engagement in the family with all those moving parts? Is there anything you can give us a tip or a share here?
I would like to say that I use FaceTime or technology, but I don't. We are pretty disconnected as far as that goes, but we text and we talk all day long. The kiddos, actually, I just allowed them to have Facebook Messenger for kids so that they can now talk to him as well on their own, without having to use my phone all the time, just because that can be also cumbersome as a mom who needs my phone
Yeah,
all
I
the
need my
time.
phone. It's not your phone. Yeah, I
Yeah,
had that
yeah,
conversation with a
exactly.
3-year-old a lot lately. Yeah.
Yeah. So we tap into that a little bit, but we also just make sure whenever we're doing anything, I make sure I include him. So if they are doing an art project, they usually also make something for him or do something that involves daddy, and then has to call and tell them about it. If they have something big going on at school, I'll let them call him and tap into him for that. In fact, this week, my daughter wanted to stay home from school. She wasn't feeling well. And instead of me making that decision, I made her call him and said, if you really are that sick, then you need to call daddy and talk to him. And so we were able to still allow him to make some of those parental decisions without being here physically with us. That's part of what we do anyway.
When I divorced, I did a couple of things with dad and separation, like, and it reminds me of that. I'm much happier to hear of a family that's making it work. But when I knew they were not going to be around their dad anymore, we did two things to kind of keep them included. One was we made handprints on two pieces of artwork that were their hand and his hands. So when they missed him, they could go put their hand on daddy's hand if they were at my place, or he had their hands at his place. And another thing that we did was his cologne was a familiar scent to them. And so they would either, when they visited dad, when they were little, they don't do it as much anymore. Once in a while, it still comes up. They'll put his cologne on a stuffed animal or a blanket, and that then they have his scent still with them. And so I think it's a real great opportunity to do creative resilience and find ways to still use the senses, use technology, remember how to stay connected. We have those tools we didn't have before. When people were gone, they were gone. It took letters, and it's my generation had no cell phones growing up. So like I remember what it was like to like actually have to go to someone's house to see them. And if they were gone, maybe you got a letter. Letters were a big deal. There was no email. And so we do have a lot that allows us to stay connected. And I love to hear of a family doing that successfully. And I think more of us could think of ways to just connect in that way in general. We are claiming we're very disconnected after COVID, but it's like, yet we're more connected than we've ever been. So are we just not using the tools that we have appropriately to create those connections and make those connections, which is why I love this podcast. I get a message out, but I also get to make some great connections with other moms and learn their techniques and strategies and resilience. So it helps me be better. It's a win-win for everyone when we're able to collaborate and come together. And if you don't have that happening, maybe you need to go create it.
I think so. I think the biggest thing lately in this day and age is we do have so much available to us, but we are also so busy, and we use that not only as an excuse, but we're so exhausted usually by the end of the day. I remember being able to go on my own for an entire day, and my mom would probably not even know where I was until I came home for dinner. Not every day. There were days that I got in trouble for not being where I was supposed to be because she checked up on me, right? But I just feel like it's such a different time. Like I hear about when my grandma used to tie my two uncles together by the belt loop and put it over the clothesline, and that's how she would keep track of them and not have them get away from her. And I was like, yeah, we can't do those things anymore. They're like at our hips all the time, or
Mhm.
it's neglect, or it's something else. So we're just so inundated with information and all the things. And so when we have downtime, it's hard to want to tap into that creativity and say, okay, what can I do? So I think it's also just expectations and boundaries and learning those things when we do have so much on our plates and that we feel so overwhelmed, but we don't have to. We just have to figure that out a little bit better.
I think what you're talking about too is just finding out what works for you. What's going to work for your family is going to be completely different than what works for my family. And then there's some universal things that are the same, like a bedtime routine, a morning routine, making sure the kids know that they're loved and that their needs are met. How that is even different for each kid. So if we can't do comparison, we can't be like, oh, I'm not like that Instagram mom over there, or I'm not like that mom across the street, or I'm not like the moms with the big houses up on the hill. You can't do that. You're going to drive yourself nuts. Not only do we have a ton of options, we have a ton of seeing into other people's lives now in a way that we didn't before.
Yeah.
And instead, we got to go inside. We can't be distracted by all these outside things. I really think the key is that we need to go inside, and we really need to teach our kids this too, that the power's inside to know what aligns with you, what is right for you. And it's really stepping into that truth that brings happiness, because then you know what fits and what doesn't and what path to take instead of thinking you have to take it all on. And as moms, we want to take it all on, right?
Yep, absolutely. I think that's beautiful, 100%. I think that's great. And that's something I've been doing a lot of more mindset work this year and just grounding and also like permission to experiment, permission to try this so that you can figure out what works for you. And I think that's a huge thing. Again, I would say my middle one teaches me a lot of that because she's the more emotional of my children.
Mm.
And so helping her this year do grounding techniques and do like this is your bubble. Do not take on other people's emotions today. Like, protect yourself from that. Has really been, I think, really helpful to me in business and in just navigating the three kids and the distance and all the things.
And with all those hats, do you find a way to be distinctly present with all of them? I've been under one roof myself and everything. It can be a little hard to like, okay, I'm the coach right now. I'm the podcaster right now. I'm the college student right now. Like, and there's people who have techniques and ways of doing that, like going through doors and they're that person or doing this. But I still think it's a little tricky.
Yeah. My favorite phrase is some days are better than others. I actually, in my merchandise store, have a design that says some days are better than others, because it is hard. It's not always gonna be as smooth as we want it to be. Just like, for instance, one of my kiddos, I think it was my son, but I'm not sure, just tried to pop in, and I'm like, not right now. But we
I'm
had
like,
like, yeah, like he didn't have to say anything. He could visibly see I'm busy, and I could just say, So instead of interrupting, he saw that and left, which was, I'm proud of him. He's gonna get kudos
yay.
for that later. Yeah. But I think it's really just, again, setting those boundaries, those expectations. They know that. They know where my limits are. I was actually out making cookies while I waited, because that was
Nice.
something that we were going to do today. So I said, well, I'll just see how long I have, and we're gonna go for it. So really it's being able to be flexible in those roles as well, because you do have to roll with the punches sometimes. It's not always going to be smooth. It's not always going to be, sometimes it's rough waters, and you have to be able to just row with it and go under if you need to instead of on top, and just figure it out as you go. I actually work from like a needs versus wants list, so that if I'm having a great day, I can get ahead of my schedule by hitting some of those wants that I really want to get done. But if I can't get them done, I know that's the flexibility built in my day. So as long as I get my needs done, I'm happy, I'm good, and I can move on.
That's a
It
great
gives me a
idea.
little bit of ability to feel productive and still let go.
Yeah, I love that idea. I do block scheduling, and then if I have to move the block, I have to move the block kind of thing. But
Yeah.
I have really found too, the best thing to do is if you can get a week or two ahead of anything as a mom, then when someone pops up sick or something happens that's unexpected, you're available. And that's been a game changer for me too. And finding those hours before they're awake or when they're asleep. But there's only so much of that you can do because you need sleep too. So
When I noticed if I started waking up earlier, my younger one would usually start waking up earlier with me. So I was like, well, I'm not waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning. And I don't want her to. So it also just becomes figuring out where those little pockets of time are in your
Mhm.
day, when
Yeah.
they are occupied and busy and happy and doing
One
what
of
you.
my friends was so funny. I knew when I came over and she was in her pantry closet, she was having a treat that she didn't want her kids to see. And that was like her time. Or I've heard other ones like, in the bathroom, that's my time. Like, the stories of hiding in the closet or the pantry closet or just for like a minute or two just to breathe is, I think any at home mom really understands.
That's
I'm taking this moment to breathe, or this minute in the car by myself. This is my moment to breathe. This is my minute to take a second because I can.
My my mom was a smoker, so I always knew when I was getting on her nerves, because she would, even in the middle of a conversation, would go out to smoke a cigarette because I can't stand the smell of it, so I would never follow her. So that was her break. She had had enough, and we're moving on.
Well, and honestly, we're doing a lot as moms. I think recently I came across something that said that being an at-home mom is like working 3 jobs. And
Yeah,
then now we're taking on being entrepreneurs and mompreneurs at home on top of that. So really any of us doing that, or it's like we're a CEO running five businesses or at once. Like
it
it's
is.
no joke. And I think we need to give ourselves more credit for that. The ones that are doing it, it's a lot.
And in fact, what I've started doing, and what I have my friends do who are also moms and entrepreneurs, because we also tend to like downplay what we do every day, right? We're like, oh, we didn't do anything today. Mm. So I started listing out literally everything I did. So when I talk to my husband at the end of the day, he's usually around 5 or 6, he's like, how was your day? And I was like, it's still going, but this is what I've done. And I list it out so that not only does it make me feel like I was more productive, and again, you're giving yourself credit for having done all of those things, because usually we don't give ourselves credit for making dinner, going and picking up the kids, getting them dressed in the morning, making sure they have brushed their teeth and put their shoes on and gotten out the door and got all of their homework done, like all of the little things. And it adds up and it takes a mental toll, if nothing else. And so I started listing it all out and saying what I do, for my clients, for my business, for the kids, for we actually have my cousin is staying with us for a short period of time while he's getting his feet out under him, after graduating. So stuff is expensive, right? So,
Yeah, that is
and so
inflation.
just
Thank you so much.
all of those things, listing it out, making sure you're giving yourself credit for it. And usually, I mean, it's not like invalidating him in any way. It's just eye-opening, I think, for myself more than anything. And then he says, "Oh my gosh." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm not done yet though." Like that's I
The
still
past
have
list. Hold on, hold on, hold on. I'm
yeah,
still
yeah, exactly. And then he's like, "Well, I put together a new engine." And I was like, "Well, I'm proud of you. I mean, that's really good. I'm glad you got that done. I'm not in any way saying that you're not working hard." Um,
yeah.
so it's
Well, it's so funny when I see the mom shirts that say things like, we were talking about a good day earlier, but like, it's a good day. The kids are alive and they've been fed. Like, I mean, it sounds so basic, but until you live through it and you have a busy toddler running around with all this energy and you have a teenager who's moody and you have a middle child who
yeah,
maybe the peacemaker may not, but or they're sick that day. Like, until you have all those moving parts and you're running 3 or 4 people's schedules and constantly having to renegotiate those terms of needs and wants, you you don't understand that shirt. Like, what,
yeah,
I didn't really get it till I was a mom. I'm like, I get it now. Because before I'm like, what in the world, you know? So
yeah,
it's nice when we can find our community and be in places like this where we can talk about that like openly and normalize it a bit. Like, normalize that it is a struggle. We're not perfect. It's messy, but
yeah,
it's messy with love. And I
yeah,
think that's the resilient part of it, is like, as long as we keep bringing love into it, then we're going to accomplish the goal in the end, which is to have good citizens, children who contribute and are successful in life, because they're going to have to do the same thing someday. And in our ever changing world today, guess what? They're going to have to pivot as much as we do in the home. So
yeah,
the home really is the foundation for society in so many ways. So it's so important that maybe not necessarily we get it perfect, but that we do have a conscious effort and we give ourselves the credit, like you were talking about. We don't give ourselves wins enough. I've even heard of the idea of having a win journal, like that you just write down your wins for the day. Or a practice I did one time was to use sticky notes. I need to get back to this. I've talked about it a few times on here. Sticky notes for every time I had an answered prayer or something went right. And that wall or that board would be a place that would be where I would do my meditation and my grounding. And then I could be around all that gratitude. I just heard a thing today that said that the part of your brain that is anxious and has gratitude is the same place in your brain. So you can't have them both at the same time. So you cannot be anxious and grateful at the same time. And so I think if we practice more gratitude for those wins, those small things, then we can feel less pressure on ourselves and relieve it. And I thought that was so interesting that it's the same part of the brain, maybe not just for that, but for other things as well. Happiness and sadness, excitement, and all those things. And so it's really flipping the switch and choosing it every moment of every day. And again, that's the inside work. So
yeah. No, that's beautiful. I've never really thought about that. I do love sticky notes too, by the way. So I'm gonna be utilizing that. But I think that's really powerful. And I speak to my kids frequently about reframing your thoughts and affirmations, because it is so powerful and it is so easy for us to cling to the negative things. Like it's just something that sticks with us, and it's proven, scientifically, that we cling to more negative things. For what reason, I don't know, but we do. And even like memories, if you think back, a lot of the time it's easier to remember the negative memories than it is to think of the happy times. And so I talk to my kids frequently about affirmations. And I know it's silly, but if you've ever watched, oh, what is that show? Of course, now I'm not going to be able to remember it, where They do. They say, you know, you is smart, you is kind, you is
Yes.
important. And so I think that's what we started with, and then I let them add on their own. And
Yes.
so it's really fun to see what they come up with as their own affirmations. And it's so powerful. Words are powerful. So
Mhm.
what
That
you
the
see yourself.
The power of words is huge. We There was a study done on just the cells of water being labeled different things, or there's a study out there with rice, and the jar of rice or the water that was labeled with something negative under a microscope molded faster, or was scattered, or was shattered, or was chaotic, versus water or the rice lasted longer and stayed white that was labeled with good things, and good things were said to it. And the water were beautiful, like snowflake, like crystals that had the good words on them. So, and we're like 70% water.
Yeah.
um so you really got to be careful what you're saying to yourself and to your kids too, like especially at that developmental age between like birth to 8 years old is going to form so many patterns for them throughout their life that it's really essential to understand child development and be really conscious of the things that we're doing as parents. And with that, I want to understand what elevated mother is more. Like, what exactly is that with the work that you do, and how does that go into what we've been talking about?
Yeah. So Mom Elevated for me was just, I wanted it to be more. You are more than just a mom. You are a wife. You are your own person. You are a business owner. I also wanted to get away from people saying they had side hustles, because if you are a stay-at-home mom who has a side hustle, you have a business. That's still your business. You are still a business owner. And again, words are powerful. So if you start to really believe that, like founder, owner, CEO, those are really powerful words. And I think as women and as moms, it's really hard for us to really own that role. I've been doing this for 9 years, and I think in the past 3 years is really when I started sitting in it and saying, "Oh, I get to make the decisions. I get to set the rules. I get to decide my schedule. I get to say no if I don't want to do this." And that doesn't mean that they're going to not work with me. That doesn't mean that they are going to be upset with that. That means they're going to respect me for setting that boundary. And that
Mm,
was a huge shift to come around. And so that's what Mom Elevated is really about, is helping other mompreneurs on their journey to really marry their business and their motherhood together and own that role, whether that's virtual assistant, whether that is a design person, or whether that is something like making bags or making wreaths. I've worked with artists in that capacity, or coaching. All of those take that mental shift to say, okay, this is me. I'm owning this role. I am a boss and I can do
yeah.
this, but I can still be a mom. I can still be an active participant in my kids' lives. My little blurb that I say is increasing impact and income without breaking the bonds that you have with your babies. Um,
Oh,
yeah.
I love that. I love that. That's so good. Say it one more time. Just so for those who didn't hear it in the back. No.
Yeah, right? Increasing your impact and income without breaking the bonds that you have with your babies.
Oh, and that's so important right now, as I know there's a huge struggle with childcare and moms not going back to work because of the cost. And but some of it too is that if I can be home with my baby, I want to be home with my baby. That's our natural instinct. And it needs to be more accepted, in my personal opinion, because children need their mothers. And in other countries, we have maternity leaves that are a year or more. We're the weirdest country in the way that we like ship the moms back off to work as soon as possible. It's not proven to be good for anyone, really. And so, but I can understand in the workforce though too, they want people to come back, and but we have the skill set. It's not that we don't have the skill set as moms. Look what we do with our children and all the things that we do. It's that we also get to be those other roles as well. And I love that we're moving into an era of making sure that what we do is in alignment with us, that it does let us maintain wellness with our families and our relationships and with our bodies and with ourselves. It's really awakening, and I really think it's going to bring in a new renaissance with some of the new ways creativity is going to be moving faster than it has before. So I think it's important to embrace what's coming in that way, and the work that you're doing is really important in that way. But I also love just the ownership. I think I'm a little spoiled as being single as long as I have. Not that I ever wanted to be a single mom, but like I started making decisions. I had to. Like, I just had to start making decisions. And there was no one to answer to except for the man upstairs. Thank you. So the decisions to start have to be made. And so it kind of forced me in a lot of ways to step into who I needed to be and wanted to be. And I think we all have that push at some point, whether we're in a marriage or whether we're coming out of college or whether we're divorced, or there's some point in your life where you face yourself and you have to really take stock on, am I really living my truth?
Yeah.
Is this really all there is, or is there more, or does this feel right? Or you're finally honest with yourself. It's like a come to Jesus moment or a breakthrough, whatever you want to call it. It's just this moment where it's like, I know there's more, and now I'm giving myself, as you said, permission to go get it. And so I that's important too, because when we do that, then our kids learn how to do it, and other moms get to see that, hey, she did it, I can do it too. And if
Yeah.
they're doing that, why not me? And so it's just a good thing for everyone. And when everyone's at their best and has their best energy and brings their best to the table, the world's just going to be a better place, as we're all at a higher vibration, we're happier, we're more giving, we're able to be our best, centered and grounded in ourselves. And
Yes.
that's what the unique part of this month is just look at this unique situation. It's so different. Like every speaker I've had on here is completely different. And we've had discussions from everything from trauma to just time management to all the sorts of variations and flavors of life. But all of it is part of our humanity and who we are.
Yeah.
And at the end, we all want the same things. And we're just trying to find that formula to help us achieve it for ourselves and for our families. And so I love that idea of elevated, the elevated mom. I like that. So
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, I love it. And it stemmed from, I don't know if you watch. I love shows. I love all the things. So I don't know if you've seen Call the Midwife, but
oh
it's
yes. Oh
also
yes.
off of that. Like, you don't have to necessarily agree with everything that somebody is doing. You don't have to love that person necessarily, but you do realize that if you come together and you even help lift that person up, it's going to be a better community by doing so. You
Mhm.
don't have to be the perfect fit for that person, but you can help them find their perfect fits. Things like that. That's what
The
mom.
other thing I love about that show called The Midwife, it just it hits my heart because of my birthing experience during COVID and not really having the help that I need. And doulas and midwives were the only ones that could help me and would. And so I have a special place in my heart for that show. My girls and I watch probably every episode. But it shows so many different kinds of mothers and births and situations. And they find this beautiful way of supporting mothers no matter what circumstance they find that mother in, and elevating her up so that she can be the mother that she was meant to be, and that child is supported no matter what circumstances brought them into this world, and life is celebrated and honored. And if that can resonate through this podcast as well, I that would mean a lot to me, because that's really where the start of this stemmed from, was a need that I saw, that I couldn't find the community I wanted to be supported in. I couldn't find the moms with this positive energy and this go-to, or the overcomers that, we could rah each other on. That's what I was looking for. I wasn't looking for a community of people just kind of, for lack of a better word, whining, going through the same thing and being woe is me, or
Yes.
now I'm a stereotype because of my situation, or now I'm limited because of my past, or now I'm wearing a scarlet letter. Like, that was not what I was looking for. My children are extremely precious to me, and I feel like they chose me. And if they
Yeah.
chose me, they must have known I was going to rise to the occasion. They trusted me to be their mother, and it's important for me to do whatever I need to do to be my best to be there for them. And I want more moms to feel empowered that way of, what's best for your kids. It's part of the innate gift of being their mother.
Yeah.
And you just have to give yourself the permission to step up and elevate yourself into that mom that you see yourself wanting to be. But as we also talked about before, you got to count those wins. You got to count the
Yeah.
little things. And knowing that difference between wants and needs that you said, I think is really important too, as there's many versions of mom right now out there. But I think we can bring it all back to love and having resilient love for ourselves and having
Yes.
resilient love for our children and our families. And so with that, we're kind of wrapping up here with our time. I've loved this conversation, and these are just very conversational. We just ebb and flow and go wherever it goes. And I love some of the points here today. I'm sure it served our audience. Do you have any last thoughts that you'd like to share as we conclude here?
You wrapped it up very beautifully. I love that you took little pieces from each section, but no, just definitely trust yourself is really the biggest thing. Trust yourself and your decisions, and know that the decisions that you're making are from the best part of you, and it's going to be the best decision that you are making with the information that you have available to you. Doesn't mean you can't change that decision later when you have more information, but whatever it is, make that decision, know that it's the best decision that you can make for you, and be okay with that. That's really the biggest thing that I'm taking away from a lot of the conversations I've had lately is just you have to be okay with the decisions you're making and knowing that they can change, they can shift, they're not set in stone. And it's okay to make mistakes and apologize for them and move forward. It's the whole resilience thing. It's okay to make a decision knowing that it might not work out, but you're going to move forward and you can continue on from there and build.
And the way that I perceive that is just if you do things with love and you know you did your best, let go of the outcome. And even if you're just planting seeds, whatever happens was what was meant to happen. You know, you did your part. And I think that can bring a lot of us peace as moms in what we're doing, that, you know, that you're enough. If nothing else from this conversation, know you're enough. And you can be more if you want to be. You just have to let yourself do the things that you want to do and move forward with them with love. And so thank you so much. Where can people find you if they want to work with you and do the Mom Elevated program?
You can find me at momelevated.com. You can email me at hello@momelevated.com. But all of the information for contacting me via social media or from the contact form or anything else, all of my information is on the Mom Elevated website. So
Perfect. All
yeah.
right. Well, thank you everyone for being here. Looking forward to bringing you more episodes this December and starting to really launch this podcast next year. And if you'd like to be a guest, please send an application my way or contact me. If we're also looking for sponsors, if you know someone that would align with the messages that we're sharing here, those are things that we're looking for headed into the new year. And we'd love to hear from you. Please comment, let us know what resonated with you, what you'd like to have more of. If there's a subject we haven't covered yet that you'd be interested in, or any experts that you'd like to see here, or names that you might want to see on this eventually, so send them my way so we can get that going. All right. Take care, everyone. Go out there and be resilient.